Hi guys, welcome back to Simply Haven Farm. Em here. Today we are going to be packaging all of the meat that we butchered in the previous video. If you haven't watched that video, go and watch that one first, then come here and watch this one. When we butcher, we either leave the chicken whole or we part it out. This time around, we parted out all of the chickens, so we will be bagging them individually. We will need this food saver here, which is a vacuum sealer, a Sharpie, and then of course the vacuum seal bags. So first thing I'm going to do is seal up these chicken breasts that did not fit in the cooler. To do that, I have to go ahead and make all of the bags. I kind of visualize what size I want for each of the bags and how many breasts I'm going to put in each bag. So some of the bags will fit 6 breasts, so I'll make those bags a little bit larger like this one you see here. And then I will make several of that size once I've checked it to see if they fit nicely. And then I go ahead and seal this, and then I make another bag a little bit smaller, see how many fit in that. And then once I have the size that I like, I go ahead and make several of those sizes. While the vacuum sealer seals that next bag, I'm just going ahead here and writing what's going to be in this bag. So I just put what it is, so I wrote the chicken breast, and then how many, so I wrote 4 on this, and then I like to put the date on the bag as well. I used to skip this step just thinking that I would remember, and I promise you, if you do not write this down, you are not going to remember, so make sure and write it down. And I like to flip over the tops of the bags because it makes putting the meat in the bag easier and it doesn't get around the edge dirty, which also helps with sealing. So now that I have this bag done, I am just going to put the 4 breasts in there and see if they fit well in there before I make more bags of this size. I try to get the bags as flat as possible when I'm arranging the meat in there so that they fit better in the freezer. And I realized quickly with this bag that it is a better bag for about 6 breasts, so I will just take note of that, and then all the bags that size will have 6 in them, and the next bag will be a little bit smaller and I'll put 4 in those bags. This process is definitely repetitive, but I found that making the bags in batch and then bagging all the meat and then sealing it all is the fastest way to go about this. If you have family members, you can each work at a station and it makes the process go by a lot faster. Then I had to pause because I looked up and out my window was Junior Mint being as cute as can be out on our little fire pit. So now that I have all the bags that I think I'm going to need made and labeled, I went ahead and filled all of the bags. And then once all of the bags are filled, we go ahead and start sealing them up. This part can be a little bit tricky. A few tips that I found to make it go smoother are make sure you have enough space between the meat and where your bag is getting sealed so that it can close and create a proper seal. The other thing is just making sure that there is not a lot of liquid, and where you seal it at, make sure that is wiped down and clean, so keeping a rag next to you is really helpful. With our vacuum sealer, I vacuum seal our meat on the setting moist, and I found that that one works the best. So here I have the first bag done. You can see where the seal is, and then on to the next one, and I just repeat it over and over and over and over. In the last clip, you can hear where the sound changes. If the sound does not change, you know that it is not sealing properly. So when that happens, I just pause it, readjust the bag, and then re-seal it. So with this food saver, it will pull out the liquid in your bag. So if you don't properly get all of the liquid out of your bag, which is near impossible to do, you can just pull out this green part and empty it. So what I just showed you right there is the bag not sealing. That's because there's too much liquid in here and it's not getting a clean seal. So I just emptied that and wiped it down, and then I just, instead of sucking out all the air again, I simply just reseal that. This process can definitely be tedious, but a lot of it is just actually the user error. I will say when we buy our next vacuum sealer, it will definitely not be this brand or this type. But this is what we could afford when we first started out, and I just want to run it into the ground before we buy a new one. Now that all the chicken breasts are packaged and dried off, I am just stacking them as flat as I can in this freezer container. You do really want to make sure your meat bags are completely dried, or they will freeze together and be really hard to get apart once they are in the freezer. Now I am moving on to the chicken wings. Again, with these, I evaluate how much we have, I make the bags, and then I stick them in. I put a lot of chicken wings together because we are a large family and we will eat a lot at one time. When you're doing wings, the one thing you want to be careful of are any pointy tips, because that can puncture the bag. I don't even write how many wings are on each of these bags. I just measure them with my heart and go with that. Now I'm on to the legs. I would say the legs are probably the hardest to vacuum seal because they are so large and bulky. The bags often don't want to seal properly. And again, I don't know if that's just my user error or if that's just this food saver vacuum sealer in general. So I just find making the bags a little bit bigger is really, really helpful when doing the legs and thighs. We left the majority of our legs and thighs together, but I will show you in a little bit further on in this video how I do separate them when I want them separated. And while I was bagging all of this, I also had the backbones cooking down on the stove. And this is simply just taking the backbones, putting them in a large pot with water and a splash of apple cider vinegar and any herbs that you want, and you just let that cook down for 24 to 48 hours. Here are all the thighs and legs that we are keeping together, all packaged and complete. Next, I just weighed these and then wrote down the weight so we have a rough estimate of how much chicken we processed out yesterday. Okay, now let's get into how to separate the thigh and the leg. So here is a leg and here is the thigh, And the really cool thing about chicken is that there are fat lines that you can actually trace and cut, and they're like little guidelines. So I start by either using the knife or scissors, just making a slit and cutting the skin off of the thigh part. However, I leave it on the leg. Meat scissors and a sharp knife are pretty essential for this step. So I just go ahead and I remove all of that skin off, and that I just throw in with the bone broth. So again, here you can see that fat line that's there. You're just gonna go and follow that with your knife and kind of make a slit all the way around it. You don't have to worry about wasting any meat because you are going to use both cuts of this. When you're doing this, you're not cutting all the way through the meat to the bone. You are simply just piercing the skin all the way around it. Next, you're going to grab the leg and the thigh, and you're going to pull it backwards, exposing that joint. Once that joint is out, you are going to use your knife and you're going to cut between it, and that is going to separate the thigh from the leg. The only thing you want to be careful of when you are doing this is that you don't cut any of the bone and end up with little bone shavings in the thigh. Another tip that we share a lot when we are parting out the whole bird is to use the weight of the bird to separate it, and you can do that here with the leg, just holding up the thigh or the leg and using the weight to help split it. So here is the leg all complete with that skin, and you just go ahead and pull it up. I'm putting mine in this bowl so I can vacuum seal those separately. Now you can either stop here and leave the bone in the thigh, or you can do like I'm doing and work around the bone to remove it. I decided to remove some of my bones for specific meals. To remove the bone, you are basically going to take your knife and scissors and just work around it like a circle to get as much meat off of it as possible while leaving the thigh in one piece. My fillet knife isn't the sharpest right now, but if yours is, you can just hold it down and rotate the bone and the knife underneath it, and then you don't have to do like I'm doing here with my meat scissors, and it makes the process a lot easier. With these bones, I'm just going to throw them into the bone broth that I'm cooking, but there you see the thigh is done and you officially have it separated. Here is just a quick time lapse for you to see the whole process. Okay guys, that's officially a wrap on Butcher Day 1 and 2. If you missed our first video, make sure to go and watch that. As always, thank you so much for being here. We hope you learned something and feel inspired to go raise your own meat. If you aren't already subscribed, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video.